Disney, look, is it so hard to make an original movie every now and then? Like, is that too difficult? Whatever. Let's get into it. Mulan follows Hua Mulan, who steps up to take her father's place when each family is required to send one male to serve in the Imperial Chinese Army. As you know, this is a live-action remake of the 1990s animated film of the same name, and this is the, I think, 9th or 10th film in a long slew of live-action remakes from Disney, and there are a couple good ones out there. I really like Jungle Book, and I think Cinderella is pretty good, but most of them I'm not a huge fan of, so I was obviously very cautious about this film going into it, but I was a little hopeful because just from the trailers, it looked like it was going to be different. It was going to do something new. It wasn't going to be a shot-for-shot remake like The Lion King was. And while it's not exactly a shot-for-shot remake, this isn't good. It's just another one that disappointed me. So let's jump into it. Now, to be fair, this film isn't absolutely horrible. There are a couple positive aspects. One being, like I said, it's not a shot-for-shot remake. It attempts to do something new, and I appreciated that. I'm glad that they learned their lesson from The Lion King, which is just the same movie, just different. But Mulan does something different. It eliminates the music. It eliminates Mushu. It goes for a more realistic war-type film, and I appreciated that they tried to do something different with this film. Also, I think some of the technical aspects are pretty solid for this film. I think the cinematography is pretty cool. There are some good shots here and there that were like, oh, that was kind of interesting. That was a cool idea to follow this motion in this way. I also really liked the production design. The sets are really, really good, and the costumes are also really solid. I also think the score is really good by Harry Gregson Williams. It's a little bit reminiscent of things like Kung Fu Panda or other basic war movies, but it's a pretty solid score. I didn't hate it or anything. It sounded pretty good. Also, I think the action scenes are passable. I don't think they're anything groundbreaking or phenomenal, but they're not terrible by any means. And I think the messages this film has are pretty admirable. Obviously, the whole tagline of loyal, brave, and true, I really enjoyed that. Although I don't think the delivery was the best of it, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I do think the messages and the themes of this film are very admirable, and I appreciate that. But that's about where the positive aspects end with this film because, look, I'll be real, this film was boring. I was so bored throughout this film, and there are a couple reasons why I think this film was really boring. First off, the fact that it's about 30 minutes longer than the original animated version, I think adds some major pacing issues that prolong some sequences that don't need to be prolonged, and also I think a lot of the life that the original animated version was stripped away here. I think a lot of the colors that you see in the animated version are gone here for more of a bland cinematic type look. I think like the whole comedic aspects with Mushu and other characters, I think it removing that kind of takes away a lot of the fun of watching Mulan. And when I was watching this, I found myself bored. There was nothing enjoyable, I guess, about it. I mean, the action was cool, but there was nothing that was like actively keeping me engaged. And speaking to those prolonged sequences where nothing happens, there's only about 20 minutes of like actual action in this war movie. It's not really a war movie, and that's what was advertised to us. And I think the biggest reason for that is because it went down the typical Disney route where it tries to be too much like a kid's movie. Even though this film was rated PG-13, they really had an opportunity to really dive into the actual like gritty war violence of the Imperial Chinese time and when the Huns were attacking. But they try and make it too lighthearted despite not having characters like Mushu, and it ruins the mood, and it didn't commit both ways. It wasn't enough of a kid's movie like the original animated version was, and it wasn't enough of a war movie. Also, the performances don't really do a whole lot for me in this film. I mean, nobody gives like a bad performance, I would say, but nobody like really delivers a strong performance. Everybody's just very flat and wooden. very hard to be engaged in a movie when nobody's really trying their best to deliver a good performance. There's also this like awkward narration that happens at the beginning of the movie, and then like halfway through the movie, and then at the end of the movie. And so it's really weird because it never shows up besides those 3 times. It just feels awkward, especially for a film that's PG-13 that kind of generally leads to a little bit of an older audience. It feels very childish to have that narration at those points, and it just feels weird to have those narration at just those 3 points and not throughout the entire film. But I think the biggest issue with this film, and this is the ultimate reason why this film doesn't work for me, is they make a major change to Mulan's character that completely ruins the entire character arc of Mulan and the entire emotional depth to this story. And I do want to speak on this, and so there are some mild spoilers ahead. It's not a huge spoiler, but it is a kind of mild spoiler. I don't remember if they say it in the trailer. But in this film, Mulan has the stored up chi, which basically means she has this like power inside of her, and which makes her like super strong and super agile, and just makes her like a better warrior than everybody else. But she's keeping it hidden inside of her, kind of like Frozen. And she's like waiting on this moment to unleash it, because all of her life she's been told to keep it inside of her because that's a woman's place in this society. And about halfway through the movie, she just unleashes it, and then nobody's able to stop her. And it ruins all sense of character growth, because in the original animated version, she doesn't have the stored up chi. She's just an ordinary girl in this village that decides to take her father's place. And in the process, when she first starts training for the military, she is terrible. She's not a good warrior. And so the entire point behind it is that she had to work and she had to fight to grow and to be strong and to take her place among those ranks. And it adds that layer of depth to where we see Mulan as this true fighter who's willing to do what it takes to take her father's place and to have that place among the ranks. But with this new film, with the stored up chi, there's nothing like that. You know that she's this awesome warrior and she can do amazing things. She just flips the switch and then instantly she's like riding into battle with no armor and nobody's touching her. And it ruins all of the tension. There's no tension after that point because you know that Mulan can't be stopped. Mulan like never gets hurt, and so she's unstoppable. And it makes the film less engaging. It just sucks that Disney continues to go down this path of ruining like little flaws in character and removing them for the sake of ultra powerful characters that cannot be stopped. And it ruins the tension of characters. It ruins the room for growth in a character, and it ultimately ruined this experience for me. I'm going to give Mulan a 4 out of 10. If Disney's going to continue to make live-action remakes, here would be my suggestion, is to take animated films that had potential to be really good and remake those into live-action. Get a really good director behind it, get really good visual effects, cinematography, stuff like that, and take what was good about those animated movies that almost were really, really good, and then elevate those, and then beef up the other parts that didn't quite work as well, and then remake that. And then you'd have a really great live action film that doesn't look like it's cheapening a really great film like The Lion King. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for my review of Mulan. What did you guys think of this version of Mulan? I know a lot of people were saying positive things about it. I just couldn't quite get behind it. But let me know your thoughts down below. And do you think it's worth the $30 to pay for on Disney Plus? I obviously don't think so, but let me know in the comments. And if you like what I'm doing here, you can hit subscribe down below, hit the notification bell to be the first one to know when I upload a new review. Thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.